Hey Ashley, good morning.
Good morning.
Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I hope you're doing well too. How's it going?
Good, good. I'm excited. Why don't we start with just you introducing yourself and you talking about where you work and what you do?
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Ashley Andron, and I am currently a test lead on Diablo 4, on the QA side of things in Austin, Texas. And yeah, I manage a group of seven test analysts here in Austin.
I wore my one and only Blizzard shirt today for the interview. I
Nice.
used to play a lot of Heroes of the Storm back when it.
That's a great one.
I know. I had so much fun because I tried to play other MOBAs in the past and it was just like I don't have time to like learn how to use the store and when to buy things and it just wasn't for me and like Heroes of the Storm was like the perfect MOBA for me, person like me. So I
That's
played it a
all.
lot. Kerrigan was my favorite. Um,
Hell yeah.
um, I saw you went to school for social work. Um,
Yeah.
how did you end up in game development and like specifically QA? How'd you get
That's a
that first job?
That's a great question. Pretty wild story. Definitely right place, right time type of thing. Yeah, so I was in school for social work and I really wanted to become a therapist. And I was pretty driven down that track and I didn't think that, I would go down any other path. But I was in school 2019, so right through COVID, and I was in North Carolina, and the news started, popping off about COVID, and so my dad told me to pack a suitcase and to pack it for 2 weeks instead of 1 week, because it was my spring break time also. And so I went and I stayed with him. And then COVID got really bad and school went full remote, fully online. So I stayed with my dad here in Texas. Um, but I struggle with self-discipline, especially, when it's something that I'm not passionate about, like school. So being online and trying to learn that way without like a physical teacher and classroom and people was really difficult for me. And I knew how expensive school was. And so I talked with my family and I just told them that, I think it would be best for me to drop out, which was a really hard decision. Because my family was really big on college and, wanted me to actually get a degree. Um, and so, I was pretty nervous what they were going to say, but my dad was super receptive and he told me to just get a job in anything that I have an interest in. And I knew that I loved working with people, because I'm a pretty charismatic person and I just love relationships and, meeting new people and helping people any way that I can. So I started in sales because
Mhm.
I figured that would be a great chance to kind of sell myself in a way. Um, and so, yeah, did a bunch of sales jobs. And then somehow I landed in American Eagle. And they asked me if I wanted to apply. And they only had leadership positions. And I was 18 and had no prior experience at all.
Yeah,
And so I talked to the manager, and the manager is from New York. I'm from New York. And she just took a leap of faith in me. And then I got part-time sales lead, which was really huge. Um, yeah, and then, you know, things turned out, and I ended up leaving that job. And in the process of finding another job, I went back into sales. Um, and then one day, randomly on Indeed, a recruiter reached out to me and asked if I wanted to apply to be a video game tester. Um, and
crazy.
Yeah, it was really insane. And I always feel bad when people come to me for advice about my career and, ask me how I got into the industry. And I'm just like,
I
it
got a
was,
phone call.
yeah, yeah. Um, and yeah, so my dad told me that it was probably a scam, so don't get my hopes up or anything. And so I reached out, and then I did 3 different rounds of interviews, so it was pretty intensive. And they didn't tell me at all like what company it was going to be for or what game I was going to be working on. And then I still have the voicemail on my phone from when I got the job, because it was just such a surreal moment.
When did you find out? Did you find out in the voicemail? Or did you find out in like the third round interview or?
No, I found out in that voicemail.
Oh
I
my
found
gosh,
out
that's
the
so weird.
company and the game, and that I got the job all in one 40-second,
And
voicemail.
you have the voicemail?
Yeah,
You should
yeah.
play it. You want to
Can
play
I
it?
play it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I played it for my director, and she loved it. Okay. So goofy. Uh, okay, come on.
Just wanted to give you a quick
There we
call
go.
today in regards
Okay.
to
Sorry, Joe. Hold on.
the interview that you had with our client in Activision yesterday. They had let me know that the interview had gone well, and they're actually interested in moving forward with you in the position, which is quite exciting. So I just wanted to speak with you further about what the next steps in the process would be.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Screaming and jumping up and down, I'm sure.
Oh my God, yeah. And that was February 16th of 2021.
Hmm.
So,
Has it gone fast for you so far? Or?
oh yeah. Yeah, like so fast. I just celebrated my 4 years last month, and I can't believe it's been that long.
And that you said at 5 years you get something? I forget. I
Yeah.
remember we talked last week briefly and you mentioned, which I never knew before, all the like not rewards, but I guess kind of rewards for tenure at Blizzard and you get so is it what have you gotten and what are you getting next soon?
So, yeah, Blizzard is really cool about that. They, really celebrate tenure and anniversaries. We have a lot of people that, are pushing 20 years, which is really mind-blowing to me. But essentially you get a full set of armor by the time you hit 20 years. So I've already gotten you get a Stein for 2 years. And then you get a little coin for 3 years. And then 5 years you get the sword.
Oh, so you're getting the sword. Okay, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I get the sword. And then I believe the next one is the ring, and then you get a shield.
Really
So
cool. I love
yeah.
that. You mentioned how when you're talking about American Eagle, how they took a leap of faith on you for you. Have you found yourself that you've done that? Like where you took a leap of faith on somebody, whether you're interviewing for like a QA job, for somebody to join your team or like anything like that?
Um, so it's been kind of a wild transition right now with all of the layoffs that, unfortunately has happened. Because, when I was applying and when I got in, the bar wasn't like bottom of the barrel, but
Yeah.
it was just like, hey, like let's take a shot and hire these people, and we'll see how it goes. And now, because the pool of talent is so vast, um, the bar is like tripled.
Yeah.
I've actually been able to give interviews now, because I'm a test lead, and it's been a pretty wild process to be on the other side, because we get over like almost 1,000 applicants now, which
Do you
is
filter through the resumes
uh,
or somebody else does that?
yeah, my manager above me does,
Okay.
but me and my
So
manager go in together and we do like the first interview. And then like other leads and managers will do the next few rounds, but
Yeah, it's crazy out there for sure. Um, yeah, I feel so bad. I hope it gets better, but I hoped it
yeah.
was going to get better last year and it hasn't.
I know, and you know, something that I don't hear a lot of people in the industry talk about, at least I haven't heard it be talked about, but you know, for me, there's almost like a feeling of survivor's guilt, you know, being in the industry and knowing that I have a job, you know, on a really great game like Diablo that, you know, has a lot of longevity. Um, you know, it's sometimes when I have hard days at work, you know, it feels like I can't because I, you know, should feel blessed that, you know, I even have a job.
Mhm.
Um, but, you know, I mean, everybody has their highs and lows, and, you know, I think that it's definitely valid to still feel all those feelings. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of survivor's guilt and, you know, a lot of pinch me moments when I'm in these interviews. You know, to be on the other side is really surreal. Especially 4 years in. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I felt that guilt a little bit. I've also felt, especially in the beginning of my current role, kind of like an imposter syndrome of
Oh
like
yeah.
being surrounded by people who are really good at their job and me sometimes feeling like why am I here? Like I feel like these people are way above me, but obviously that's not true. We're all really good at what we do. That's why we're working here. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's true. I think it's normal to sometimes feel that. It pushes me to like try more, try better, try to learn more. Um, it motivates me.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
for sure.
And just feeling like a lot of gratitude. Gratitude is always something that, you know, I try to fall back on. And like you said, you know, that just motivates me to make me want to work even harder for sure.
Yeah, I like that. Um, pushes you. So being 4 years in, what do you like the most about working in QA so far?
Um, so I started with Activision working on Call of Duty. And I I've become really good at knowing like internally when it's time for me to kind of move on, you know, to the next thing when I feel like I'm, you know, in a stagnant spot. Um, and I was kind of feeling that way, you know, towards the end of my time with Activision. Because it was really it was cool and kind of weird at the same time where like all of us started as, you know, functional QA testers, and it's kind of like cows like getting cattle, you know, to go in, where it really was just like you have one path, and that was just QA, and that was just, you know, going to management. And so all of our testers, you know, started working up the ladder together. So by the time I was an associate project lead, all of the other leads that I was working with pretty much, you know, had the same story. And we all started, you know, at similar times. And so I was looking, we have an internal dashboard for jobs throughout all of ABK, which is really awesome. And I saw Diablo 4 test lead, and I seriously, I was just like, there's no way that I'm gonna get this, but you know, I'm gonna shoot my shot and try. And I was born Jewish, and my dad's side is like super Christian, you know, go to church all the time and all that. And so when I was on winter break, I had asked my whole family to pray for me to get the interview. And I was just like, guys, if you know, if I can just get the interview, I feel like I have a good shot, because I love talking to people, you know, and almost selling myself in a way. And I always joke, you know, with my managers about how I love interviews because I love talking about myself, you know. That's one topic that I'm confident in, and know a lot about it. And so yeah, so they the recruiter reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to interview. And I remember like I stood up from my desk and I was like, I need to go walk outside. I need to go do some laps, and I called my dad and it was just so surreal. And it was actually one of the first interviews I ever prepared ahead of time for. I usually try to just wing it, which probably isn't the best. I
If
guess
it
it's
works for you, yeah, maybe.
yeah, yeah. Um, and so I like had a notepad with like bullet points and questions and yeah, I did the interview and it was intense. It was a very intense interview. And I think for me and maybe for most people, the situational based questions always scare me because you can't prepare for those. Like
Yeah,
there's no way. And you just really have to, like take a deep breath and kind of fake it till you make it with confidence if you're feeling unsure. But something I always tell people that's really good to do is like when you don't feel confident initially, like it's totally okay to just ask if you can take a minute to like think.
yeah,
And and that actually, can go in your favor for sure, because it definitely shows that you care enough, to stop and think before you just rush to give an answer.
that's great advice. And even the advice about just like being calm and like how you said, you know yourself best and you can, because I mean, I think for most people, even myself, like I've gotten better through the years and more confident and calm, but like interviews were so scary. And I messed up so many interviews where like looking back, I'm like, I can't believe I said that. Like
Yeah.
so bad. But like just like remaining calm and like, yeah, it's really good advice. And most people would try to fumble through an answer or like be
Yeah.
panicking, but if you just take some time, yeah, I think it's solid advice for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, because, confidence is unfortunately with interviews very easy to tell, like within the first 5 minutes. And if you can like, find some tools that'll help you get through that, I think that that's really, really great.
Yeah. So, and then you got the job. And I
But
know you have a history with Diablo. You should share
yeah,
that because it's really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so I grew up playing Diablo with my dad, mostly D2. And my parents got divorced when I was 8. So, when me and my dad were in different states, we would play D2 like all the time. And I would have him go into PvP with me, just so I could kill him and get his ear in my inventory because I thought that was like the funniest thing as a kid that you can have like their ear. And my dad was a trooper. I mean, he would just let me, do it as many times as I wanted. Um, but yeah, I mean, we love Diablo, and my dad, was one of the first people to go out and wait for the disc and go get it. And when I got the job, there was something called Hell's Ink, which is like a tattooed tour that they did for like advertising. And so we went to the Hell's Ink that was in Dallas. And it lined up where I knew that I got the job right when we were going to do that, which was really fun. Because of course I was like telling everyone, I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna be working on it,
No
and
big deal.
yeah, and there was like a camera crew there who was doing like the video for it. Um and they were just like, oh my God, no way, like you work on it, like let's interview you, and I was just like, okay, like I want to be on the YouTube page for Diablo. And I was so nervous, and like I just had gotten the job, so I didn't know like really anything about what was going on or the game. So I had some pretty bad answers that I think they were wanting like a lot more information and probably confidence, from me. And so they recorded me doing the interview, but then I looked back on the video and
You
they
weren't.
didn't any of it.
Oh, they cut you out.
Yeah, they did. And I was like, all right, I
Whatever.
don't even blame them. But yeah, I got Lilith
It looks great too. That's so cool.
tattooed. Yeah. Yeah, it was really awesome. And then my dad got the monk symbol.
Oh, cool. And you got
Yeah,
it together, right?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
And
special.
he, is very against tattoos, honestly. So, for him to do that with me was really special.
That's
Um,
how my parents were. I have an older sister, and she was the first one to kind of tread those grounds of getting tattoos when
oh
she was like,
yeah.
she got one when she was like 18, and obviously my parents weren't thrilled, Italian immigrants. But and then like my brother and I, we have tattoos too, and like now my dad has like his whole arm is like it's full of like his grandkids' names, and like he
Oh,
has like a
nice.
tattoo over here. It's really
Yeah.
funny. My mom doesn't have one yet, but I feel like maybe one day she'll get one.
Yeah, I was like, Dad, don't you want another one? And he was like, No, Ashley, I don't. And I was like, I don't get it.
That's funny. I have my only video game one is this, which is the logo for Dead by Daylight, which is one of my favorite games.
Dude, how did we not talk about this before?
Do you
I
do
have
you
over 1,000 hours in Dead by Daylight.
Oh, yeah, I don't think I have that much, but I it's like it so like I play it pretty regularly now if I have
Yeah.
free time, but like back when I was playing it years ago, it'd be the kind of game where like I could not play it for like 6 months, but then as soon as I play like one match, I'm like sucked back in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I love mostly playing Survivor. I've played Killer too, but lately I've just been playing like Survivor. It's so
Yeah.
fun. It's because I love horror movies and obviously video games, so like it's perfect. I love all the collaborations and it's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, something interesting like being in QA, people ask me all the time if I still play Diablo, in my free time, which I've been making more of an effort to get back into it recently, just with, the current projects that we're working on. I definitely, want to make sure that I am at the same level as our players so I understand, what's going on and give valuable feedback if I have any. But yeah, so God, where was I going with that? The train left the station just now.
Uh, we're
Yeah, I was
talking about about how you I don't know.
yeah, it's okay. About Dead by Daylight.
Hmm.
And games. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So now I'm making more of an effort to make sure that I'm, getting into game. Me and my dad go through and play D4 all the time. And he'll always, run through it with me whenever I want. And yeah, so it's working QA has kind of made gaming a bit of, not a challenge, but especially like with my PC, like when I get home, the last thing that I want to do is get on my computer. So I'm now actually a console person. I mainly play on a PlayStation, just so I can have like a different feeling when I'm gaming, because logging onto my computer is just not really what I want to do when I get home. And
For sure.
something that I've noticed is that a lot of us, like at least in leadership, the games that we're playing when we're off work are very like mindless games. Like me and my director talk about like the grocery store simulator. Um
Never heard of that one, but I'm not surprised it exists.
Yeah, yeah, she was really into that for a long time, and then I would go back into like Sims, but
Oh,
Dead by Daylight is my mindless
hmm.
game. 'Cause I just shut my brain off and I've played it so many times.
I'm not nearly as not scared, but just like the adrenaline I would get playing that game is terrifying. It's like it was terrifying at first, but now having played it so much, I don't quite feel the same way. But
Yeah.
like yeah, it was like being chased is like it's so stressful and like but I don't know, I love it. Diablo's a good game for console, I feel like. I'm a PC gamer. I'm looking forward to the Switch 2 though. I really want to get that.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't have my Switch anymore, so that'd be fun to get back into. But do you play Dead by Daylight on console then?
Yeah, yeah, I played on PS5 and luckily they implemented a cross progression. Thank
Yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah,
I was waiting on that for a long time.
yeah. I know they had a mobile version too, but I think they shut it down or are
Yeah,
shutting it
they
down
did.
or yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. What so QA, what would you think? Go ahead.
Sorry, we were talking about my favorite parts of QA. I don't
Oh
think
yeah,
I
yeah.
answered
I
that
no, but
question.
go ahead.
Um, yeah, so being on the Blizzard side of things and being able to have that experience with Activision, I feel very grateful, to have been on both sides for, a pretty solid amount of time. And the thing that I love about QA, specifically with Blizzard, is that we are seriously embedded QA. And embedded QA just essentially means that we are working hand in hand with our stakeholders and developers and all of them. And so it's just been really amazing to work with our producers on D4 because we just have some really great people and they are just as nerdy as the players, which is like the most refreshing part, for me, because I care so much about Diablo, getting to talk with them and like share ideas has been really wonderful. And there's just so much career advancement opportunities with Blizzard. Like if you are curious about dev or you're curious about design, whatever it is, like we as leads and as managers, are very encouraging of our analysts, going down any other path, even if it's outside of QA. And just having open doors with pretty much everyone on Diablo, which is really incredible.
It is. Yeah, it's very incredible, especially for a big company like Blizzard. I feel
Yeah,
like so much, it's more common, at least in my experience, for that kind of environment to be at smaller uh companies, but that's great. And
yeah.
I love the embedded QA. It's the way to go, in my opinion. So many advantages.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and QA is really important, I think. And, to have that sentiment shared with our production, is just a really great feeling. Because, I think being in QA, especially in a smaller studio with such a big company, sometimes you can feel, forgotten or like at the bottom of the poll or whatever. But, QA is really crucial to them, especially.
Yeah.
So,
I'm always telling my producer on my project to like just invite me to like all of the meetings, like all these design kickoff meetings or like whatever. And like if I feel like it's not going to provide any value, I just won't show up. But like being able to attend meetings or be involved in the day-to-day of things before they're even like coded or anything like that. So I can have a say or verbalize like potential risks or anything like that. Or just like even if I don't, just being able to listen and get some eyes on like what's coming so I can like start thinking about how I'm gonna test it and stuff like that. It's so helpful instead of just being handed something that's like done being like, here you go, it's ready to test. It's like, it's better to be involved earlier.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think what's really great about being a people manager is just that I and the fellow leads and managers, we just wear so many different hats. And I always think about, how my life would have been if I went down that track of therapist.
Yeah,
And there's just no way that I would have had, all of these skills and be such a well-rounded person while still having that, people part of it. It's just been really incredible. Because now, I manage 7 people, I manage a project. I have to make sure that we're being efficient and priorities are aligned. So, the learning really never stops, and it's all of it is there for you, and it's really up to you if you're gonna utilize everything and go after it or not,
definitely. Do you do anything specific to like keep up with learning, even if it's just like general QA or the industry, or like what do you do? For me, I try like on Fridays, I try to dedicate maybe like 30 minutes or an hour and like watch a video or like read some stuff or like something like that. Do you do anything specific?
Yeah. Yeah. So my current manager got me started. So we have personal development time, PDT.
Oh,
Uh
nice.
yeah, and we get 2 hours a week, which is really great. And so, my manager encouraged me to get some books on soft skills, just to improve communication and, look at things differently. And so right now I got like 3 books that were recommended to me just for management. And so I've been reading those pretty much every lunch break that I get.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, it's been super helpful.
Have you come across any QA specific books? I guess it'd be a lot harder of a read, but I
Yeah.
haven't looked myself lately. That's why I'm asking. I'd be curious about that.
Yeah, I don't know the ones that I have. The one I'm currently reading is from a female perspective, and it was from a woman who got thrown into management when she didn't want to be a manager at 25, and I'm 25, so that's been a really cool book to read.
Really
Uh,
relatable, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've just learned so much, especially in my past 2 years at Blizzard, with people. Because the tricky part about being a manager is that, you have at least for me, I have 7 people, and those 7 people are, they're individuals, and they all have different personalities, they all have different, goals and different levels of ambition. And one of the biggest things that I realized that I've been struggling with as a manager, has just been me subconsciously projecting my level of passion for my work on them, which I realize is completely unfair, and I'm glad that I see it now, so I can get away from that. But yeah, I just realized that when I was managing someone that, might struggle being proactive, or just really looks at, our job as just a job,
Mhm.
which I don't get because I love Diablo so much, but it's just been a really valuable lesson, just meeting people where they're at, and not going into things with expectations, because that'll probably only lead to disappointment. But
I mean, that's a sign. of a good leader of everything you've just said, and having the courage and the awareness to like recognize your own like weaknesses and trying to improve them.
Yeah, and
It's hard to do for people.
yeah. And I'm very open to feedback, like that's something that I try to instill in my team, so that they're not afraid of giving constructive, or getting constructive feedback. Because I think that that's, really valuable lesson that I think people often don't, get until much later in life, if at all.
Yeah. What do you do anything specific if you see like morale is down on the team, or if like you guys are like crunching through something and I don't know, just to like keep people motivated, or if people are struggling with their career aspirations, like what do you try to do to help?
Well, I typically like during my one-on-ones, with them, I try to figure out, where their passion is, because I think that that's, one of the most important parts of kind of pushing through that, low morale barrier. And so just trying to figure out their passions and what kind of excites them about QA, and then for me, just figuring out how I can get them on that, path, or I can give them work that, might be related to the areas that they're interested in. Um, and we do hybrid, so we have Monday and Friday at home, and then the rest of the days are in office.
Mhm.
So, I mean, for me, I'm always walking the floor. I'm always going around to like every different, team, and talking with people, and hearing about what they're working on and how we can improve, or vice versa. So I just try to be uplifting, and just keep people engaged and excited about what we're working on.
I I miss the in office
Yeah.
a little bit sometimes, but
Yeah.
I love working from home. I'm
Yeah.
thankful that I get to do that. I like feel it feels unfair most times that like I get to just do this, and like most people have to like don't get the opportunity. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
as a manager, I love it, because being able to like see your team working, is just so much better and definitely easier to navigate than when everyone, is at home and you're probably not talking as much. And if I want to see, how my team's doing, I just look in Jira. Instead of walking around and like actually seeing what they're working on and talking to them. So I really love the hybrid model.
Yeah, I think it works for a lot of people for sure.
Yeah.
If there's like looking back, if you could go back in time to your past self and talk to yourself, what advice would you give for past Ashley about the industry or just QA in general?
Um, I think the biggest thing that I'm kind of now rolling into would be, to just tell myself that, keep being passionate about what you do, and don't let, constructive feedback or a roadblock, or a bad day like taint all of that energy and all that joy. Because, there are always going to be highs and lows to anything in life. And I'm a very energetic and, positive person. And that's definitely, left an impact on most of the people that I work with. And that's one thing that I continuously have heard, from my mentors is, Ashley, don't let go of that energy, because that's really rare, and being surrounded by people that have been with Blizzard for so long, I think that that's kind of where I stand out, because I don't have a family. I'm not, seeing anyone. I just have my cat. So, I'm able to just dedicate all of my energy into my work. And I think the other part of that too would just be encouraging myself to find more outside of my job. Because I've definitely had some hard days, being at Blizzard and working on Diablo. And sometimes, it's just felt like hopeless, or things aren't moving fast enough how I want them to move. um and I realize that it's like a toxic relationship where when work is going really well for me, like I'm great, and the weekend goes well and I'm in a good mood. But when things aren't going well, like navigating the layoffs and everything was a really dark time for all of us. And just encouraging myself to do more outside of work so things aren't that catastrophic. Because when things are bad, like they're really bad, and I let it get me down sometimes. And that's something that I'm actively trying to do, is just find hobbies, find ways to disconnect from work.
That's very smart and something I wouldn't expect somebody who's been doing this for like around 5 years or so to say. I would expect somebody who's like 20 plus years in to give that advice. Like, I think that's really smart because in the beginning of my career, I was a lot younger, and like I remember sleeping in the office with
Oh
like
yeah.
two of my friends, and like it just like killing myself. It was just not worth it looking back. And obviously I can't do that anymore. I have like a family and I have other responsibilities, but like I wish if I could go back, I would be like, just it's not all about work. It's important to work on yourself, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Whether it be your skills or your mental health or what have you, I think is important. So yeah, taking a step back and going for a walk outside or doing whatever, it could help you in your work too, giving yourself a chance to disconnect and come back fresh.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. And, I was talking about earlier, just really knowing like my internal gauge with, stuff when I feel burnt out. And something that I've learned about myself is that, I get into office at like 10:30 in the morning, and I'll typically stay until like 7. And, something that I've kind of been practicing a lot, is when I feel like I've worked a full day and I'm really running out of juice, instead of trying to like push myself when I get home, because I have a home office and stuff, I can easily just do work here. um I'll typically just let myself chill out, and then I'll just get up early in the morning and get whatever I need to get done. And that's just been such a helpful technique for me, because you're definitely a lot fresher in the morning, and can work better that way than if you were to push yourself an extra hour or so at night.
Yeah. No, I agree with that too. I've been in both situations. Like yeah, earlier on, just like really late nights at the office and stuff, which
Yeah.
I would not be able to do now. But when I was young and eager, it was easier, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
and just, taking all the knowledge that I can from the people around me, has been really huge. I really value all of the mentors that I have right now, that have those, 20-year, um, 10-year anniversaries, whatever. I just try to be a sponge, and I just try to, really take in the advice that they're giving me, and try to get ahead, with that.
yeah.
It's been really helpful too.
How have you found networking in your career so far? What, I guess, what have you done and what kind of advice would you give somebody who is new to games or QA, and maybe like what they could do or what you've done that's worked or been helpful or
Sure. Yeah, so in terms of networking, I a lot of people at Blizzard are very vocal about having that open door policy, and are very receptive to having analysts, go and ask them any questions that they have. So I would definitely encourage, like, taking advantage of those open door moments from anyone that you can. Especially those that are in more senior positions that, maybe you want to get to that point one day, so I just really encourage reaching out to those people, because that's what I did immediately. I once I knew that I wanted to go, up the ladder with management, I just went to all the people that were in those positions, and talked with them and asked for their guidance on, situations. And that's been really helpful. Um, and yeah, so I would just encourage, to take advantage of those open door policies, because they're there for a reason. And we've just been blessed recently, because our office in Austin is pretty new. It essentially just started when I got the job.
okay.
And so being in that type of environment, and yeah, just going to all the senior people, and we've recently had a lot of visitors. So we had Johanna, the president of Blizzard, came to the office and did like a Q&A. And she was in the office, just working in like a separate little, like conference room or whatever. And I had passed her, and I was like, there's no way that she's just sitting there without someone, in there. And and so I did another lap around the building, and yeah, the door was open. So, I went in there and I introduced myself, and we talked for like 20 minutes, because she also came from Activision. So we kind of talked about that transition and, the way that Blizzard is headed. And that was a really great opportunity.
Wow, yeah.
Most recently, we had Rod Ferguson.
Oh, that's right. That was
Yeah,
cool.
he came last week, and it was just a really, it was like a big celebrity,
Sure.
for me, for sure. And being in leadership, you just get a lot more opportunities like that. Like we had a leadership lunch with him, and then we had a meeting, just about the future of Diablo and how we can, be providing more, as QA, leads and management. And we just had an open discussion. And it was really cool. So
That's really cool.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that's awesome. Sounds like an amazing place to work. That makes me happy. What do you think? Things have been rough for the industry recently, but I think for QA in general, mostly, I think things have been getting better as far as like companies treating QA as like a actual
Oh
part
yeah.
of the development team, and like there's
Yeah.
a trajectory of like career growth, and you're not siloed off in a different building, and like you don't have any communication with anybody. Like it's gotten better, I think, overall. But
Yeah.
what do you think the future is for us in QA and games in
Oh,
the
that's a great question. I think with the rise of AI right now, that's been kind of nerve-wracking for people, for sure. Just, not knowing how AI can replace us and if that's, going to happen in the future. And so that's a big part of where I see the future going, is just working a lot more with it, and finding ways that we can improve, our current processes and how we can be more efficient. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I think of it the same exact way. And I didn't really think about it until you just mentioned it about how we're in it right now about like with AI first getting integrated in the early stages, and then in the future where it's just like an everyday tool that's used. And it's like, yeah, we were there in the beginning when it first got,
Yeah.
I didn't think about that until now. So that is really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I love tech. I love games about how it's always constantly changing and all the new technology, which is hard to stay on top of, but like I
Yeah.
like that challenge. And yeah,
Yeah, and I think, like being with a franchise that's as big as Diablo, I think that there's, a really strong future there. Because, it's not like a dying fan base or anything. So, there's a lot of longevity, with Diablo specifically. So, I just try to focus on that and, what we have in front of us, and just asking myself daily, am I providing value, to the company, to the people that I work with, because I think at the end of the day, if you can answer that honestly and say yes, I think that you're doing literally everything that you can. And I have never let myself be anxious about layoffs, which might sound cocky, I don't know, but I just really stay focused on how can I provide value, and how can I make it so that if I were to leave, or I get fired or something, going in that direction, that they would kind of feel my lack of presence, and that's what I encourage my analysts, to focus on too, is just, look at what's in front of you, and just be asking yourself, how can I make this better, and how can I have an impact.
I think that's really encouraging and refreshing and positive. I think that's actually a really good way to end things. But before then, I guess just to wrap it up, what we talked about playing games earlier. What are you playing currently right now in your free time?
Ooh, yeah, I mean Dead by Daylight, of course.
Yeah, I'll have to. I don't play with anybody, but I'll have to
Yeah, we should play
get your
sometime.
info. Because I don't know how it works actually with like the console and PC crossplay with like finding friends or inviting them to your party. But I guess we could figure it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Do you play
So
Survivor or Killer? What do you usually do?
Survivor.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah, we'll definitely try to do that. Then it'll be fun.
yeah. Yeah, so Dead by Daylight, Split Fiction is
Oh,
amazing. Like,
I've heard people talking about it at work.
oh my God. Yeah, me and Rod were even talking about it when he was here, because he's been playing it. But yeah, I mean it's just incredible. Especially for, a co-op game. I mean it's just amazing. Like it definitely set the bar very high for those, types of games in the future. And it's just been fun to play with my friends, and to have like QA brain playing
Uh-huh.
those games, because we're constantly, maybe not trying to break it, but we're trying to figure out, how to do things together. Like no spoilers, but there's one of the chapters, like there's a giant like cog, and there are two wheels that are like constantly spinning, and if you would like dash up, you would get killed instantly. And so my friend and I were like running around the whole room, and I was just like, okay, I think you have to jump on these beams and like climb these ropes. And then, my buddy was just like, no, I think you have to come down here and it's somewhere over here. And we gave it like 5 minutes and we could not figure it out like at all. And we were like, okay, we can look at the walkthrough now. We tried, and you have to just make sure that the window was open, because there's a little gap between the blades or whatever. And so that was it. Like we were thinking about it way too intricately, and
Yeah, analytically, yeah,
you know and it's really cool just learning how games work, like
totally. You
how
look at them in a different way when you play them.
yeah, yeah, and how they can just point you, in a specific direction, like the dash button that should have been an indicator to us that, okay, the game wants me to do something, with this, just little things like that.
Yeah.
And having that split screen, like being able to see how my friend thinks about things, it was really cool too.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a huge game for me right now, currently.
Yeah, I like the rise of co-op games back because I mean, I wish I could go back to the 90s and early 2000s because it was like the best times, I
Yeah.
swear. And like, I mean, just playing split screen GoldenEye or Perfect Dark with my brother and cousins,
Oh
it's like
yeah.
it's the best times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm playing Dead by Daylight, and then um my wife and I yesterday played we made new characters in the original Guild Wars, and because the
Nice.
anniversary 20th anniversary, I think it starts tomorrow.
Oh wow.
That's where we met was Guild Wars, actually.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's
Like
awesome.
17 years ago. And then
Wow.
just like exchanged emails and like talked on Ventrilo and like MySpace and then Facebook and just like kept in touch. And then now we're married. So
Wow, that's amazing. It's so cool to see how games bring people together.
literally, yeah, no, I
Yeah.
know. And I think about that and I think it's so cool because I've heard tons of stories through World of Warcraft or like what have you
Oh yeah.
about just people meeting. It's super special. I it's so cool. And then besides that, I've been working on learning UE5 because I
Oh.
we use Unity at work and I used UE4 back years ago. So I'm like just following like a RPG template and like I'm like following tutorials and like making an RPG and I have ambitions to like turn it into actually something, but we'll see.
Wow.
But I've been having fun doing that. I've been trying to do that instead of playing games.
Yeah.
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 But
That's a smart trade-off. Doing some
it's hard to stick with, but I found like once I get like really deep in a project and I am at the stages where I can like visually see it
yeah,
changing, I get like really into it and I can like I have fun doing that. So
that's awesome.
yeah. Um, cool.
Yeah, and it's given me my life and this gorgeous apartment that I have. So, I never take any day for granted, working for Blizzard, and honestly, Diablo is just like the icing on the cake for
I
me,
know.
you know.
That's so cool. I love that.
Like
Yeah,
if it was any other game, I'm sure I would be excited and passionate still, but to have it be Diablo, it's just like extra.
yeah, extra special. Totally. I get that. I'd feel the same way if it was like Guild Wars or something for me
Yeah.
personally, because that's like my game. Yeah. Anyway, I love talking with you. I think you said so many great things for people that I hope they'll watch all the way through and listen because I think it was just so much good information and you have a really good positive attitude and um it's like infectious your ambition and like stuff. Like seriously, I think it's great. And I think you'll definitely go far if you stick with it in QA and games. So
Thank you. Yeah,
yeah.
and I mean, anyone that sees this, or hears about me, like, definitely feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
I could
Because
link it in the description if that's fine with
Yeah,
you. Okay.
yeah, that would be great. I've actually had a few people now reach out to me for, just career advice and just wanting to know what my experience has been,
Hmm.
which just, fills my heart. So, and any chance I get to help people, really makes me happy. So, thank you
Cool.
so much for having me. And this is just such a great opportunity. I feel very whole.
Yeah.
So.
Happy to have you. Have a good
Okay.
one.
Yeah, you too. Bye.